What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Jobbers and Goons. Shout out to this sponsored versus battle video. It made me realize I've been missing doing Star Wars versus battles. Shout out to Maverick. This is Darth Zannah versus Asajj Ventress, both at peak in Legends. If these two were to clash, who would come out on top? If you are a fan of Star Wars content and versus battles like this, run the likes up. Let's get it to 200 likes and I will return instantly with another Star Wars battle. Make sure to subscribe. We are on the road to 22K. I would love to hit that sooner rather than later. So run the subscriptions up. Have all your people subscribe, all that. Join the Discord. We do games, prizes, giveaways, D&Ds, and more. And if you want to purchase content or sponsor it and see it on the channel, hit me up. I currently have some video deals going on. But getting into this, we're going to review Darth Zannah versus Asajj Ventress. I'm personally super excited for this, and without further ado, let's begin. First off to talk about is Darth Zannah. Zannah was initially discovered by Darth Bane among chaos and destruction on a planet Ruusan, and swiftly discovering her potential in the Force, what she had already naturally done. He knew she would have the potential to one day surpass him. So he took her in to help him establish his first lineage of the Rule of Two. Zannah, already a powerful natural in the Force, she would grow fast under Bane, actually surpassing even what he initially intended / projected her to become. As a result, she did eventually test him for his mantle, and did surpass Bane to take over the Rule of Two, helping to establish the pattern. Zannah is most remembered in her legacy as an Old Republic Sith for her absolute mastery of Sith sorcery, and her affinity with the Force itself, and overall her grand power. Now, getting that introduction of her character out the way, let's get into her physical capabilities. Now, Darth Zannah is often referred to when I watch other Star Wars content creators as someone who wasn't that impressive in physicality, and I disagree. We've seen her outright react to Darth Bane on several occasions. She's moved so fast that Bane himself said he wouldn't have been able to react to her move, and he was pretty much lucky it was aimed at somebody else. She went in unconventional style and physical prowess, and that is, the Sith kind of had two styles, either power style or speed style. Power style, majority of Sith go that way because the dark side is best at giving you raw power. Well, Zannah ignored that conventional rule and decided to embark on a game of powerful speed style. Bane disagreed with it, but it worked for her due to her physical nature and augmentation with the Force, allowing her to be agile and quick rather than try to outmuscle anyone. This makes a lot of sense too, because she's looking to one day surpass her master. No fucking way she's gonna outmuscle Darth Bane. Like, come on guys, it's reasonable she chose that path. She's able to withstand brawls with Darth Bane, undergo several battles and wars throughout her time as a Sith, including taking on multiple Jedi at once, and Jedi Knights and Masters. Overall, she's not the most physically overwhelming character we've ever seen in Star Wars, but she still demands respect as a character capable of putting many on a t-shirt physically. Next, we have her dueling skills. And now, Darth Zannah, like I said, adapted a more speed-based approach to combat and took up the dual-wielding lightsaber staff, made famous to the more casual or just regular watchers of Star Wars, Darth Maul. This weapon, it is important to note, just using it, you have to be an expert in lightsaber combat. You can't just be someone out here dancing with it. You have to be a master of lightsaber combat. Zannah, although her specialty was with the Force, did take lightsaber combat very seriously. In fact, she was noted as having trained and practiced with the likes of Darth Bane and others for thousands of hours in just pure both lightsaber drilling, instruction, and combat, but also the studying and the intelligence side of lightsaber combat. Her preferred method and style was Form 3 Sarisu. This is a defensive-minded lightsaber form, practicing on the ultimate defense of the blade. She was quite adept at this at times when fully engaged in lightsaber combat. Her shield walls was akin to lightsaber blade spinning and forming impassable walls. That's how good her defensive dueling was. However, Zannah is not someone that will overwhelm as a duelist. It's more so like a placeholder for her in terms of her combat style, but it is worth noting how good of a duelist she is. She can hold you off, including powerhouses like Orbilis Bane, and even a Bane that was superior and made the other Bane's form look rudimentary in style. If she's able to contend with those, she can contend with most as a duelist. I do feel she's a little slept on as a duelist and the overall thoughts behind her dueling skills. And while she didn't prioritize this, many Sith don't, including Sidious, and she was a skilled and formidable martial artist and lightsaber duelist and specialized in number 3. While she won't look the mainstay this style of combat, she is quite capable and one of the more established duelists in the Old Republic in terms of she did have several feats, including dueling Jedi who are using battle meditation and were masters, going 3 times their normal speed. I mean, she's quite balanced as a duelist and can take on several duelists throughout the galaxy if she has to. She just doesn't prefer that method. Lastly, let's talk about her Force powers and abilities. As I stated before, Darth Zannah was always viewed as an absolute force with the Force, no pun intended. Even as a child, without training, able to blow people's arms up, take down Jedi and snap their necks, even form force barriers to protect herself and an ally from a force storm on Ruusan that pretty much wiped out the planet. In terms of her power, Bane stated essentially, for no other reason, he picked her due to her potential to surpass him in the Force. That kind of power, he just can't consider anything else. Like, he had to go for it right away, which you have to respect. On top of this, we see that Zannah specializes in abilities, quite frankly, not many people know or bother to study. This includes the likes of Darth Bane, who conceded that the Force knowledge and abilities of Zannah had far surpassed his at the end of the day, and she had learned things even he didn't know or couldn't fathom in the Force. In terms of what she specialized in, she was obviously good at Force concealment, the basic things like telekinetic pushes and pulls. Her precog was exceptional, being able to calculate instantly thousands of possibilities in combat and act accordingly. On top of this, her Force sense and her defenses against the basic abilities in the Force were stated by Bane to essentially make her bully proof. Like, you can't just run up on her with the basics unless you're super high level, because otherwise she'll just repel it, and she has the means to do so. On top of this standard Force output and abilities, she has her dark side tendrils, which are absolutely dangerous, and when they hit you, it's a pain unlike any other, including worse than the Orbalisk armor, which hurts you on a molecular level. And Bane likened it to the void itself outside of the Force. That's essentially like the death. Like, when you go there, you lose even identity. It's like a conceptual pain, a nothingness. And these tendrils, unless you're insanely high tier like Darth Bane, they're gonna kill you instantly, and they subject you to a chaotic nothingness and madness. On top of this, she has her insanely advanced Sith magic and sorcery, including spells of madness, which, if cast upon people, immediately bring forth both dreams and thoughts and manifest them as reality to the person being inflicted, causing instantaneous madness and forcing them to fight against something that's not there, and breaking their mind eventually unless they're absolutely trained against it. Overall, Darth Zannah is both a prodigy in the Force, but also, more importantly, a recognized and actualized user of the Force. It wasn't just potential. Zannah maximized it through stealth, intelligent use of the Force, the study of arcane ways, and ultimate Sith magic and sorcery. Ultimately, Darth Zannah is one of the scarier combatants of her time, training under one of the greatest Sith to ever live, the Forger of the Rule of Two. And Darth Zannah herself was her own beast, specializing in the Force and making her exceptionally dangerous. But will this be enough to take down another monster female Sith in Star Wars? That is Asajj Ventress. Asajj Ventress, as a child, was discovered similarly to Zannah by a great Sith Lord, this time being Count Dooku. Despite not having been trained formally in any of the Jedi ways, it's important to note that Asajj Ventress had already this innate, twisted gift in the Force, and it was easy to see her potential for Dooku. She was brought up under his tutelage, learning the ways of the Force, as well as lightsaber dueling, even somewhat taking some of the ways of Dooku for her own, including some of the ways he duels with Makashi. Now, Ventress would go on to become a key player in the Clone Wars, doing her best to slay Jedi and help her master take over the galaxy. However, Asajj has a twisted and difficult legacy, as many times it was conflicted, including her love affair with the controversial Jedi Quinlan Vos and her doing her own thing at times. She was even at one point declared a potential threat, and Dooku was ordered to kill her, although she does escape. Overall, Asajj had a tragic life that led her down the dark side of the Force and serving as a Sith assassin, and she met her demise at the hands of Count Dooku. Now let's get into what Asajj is capable of after going over some of her history, including legends. Now, physically, Asajj, from an early age, was literally subjected to a war-torn planet and survived in these conditions. She was then taken to train in the ways of the dark side, allowing her to grow into one of the fastest characters we've seen in her era. She was able to casually blitz Jedi Knights and Jedi Master alike, showing off her insane speed in combat. Even Kenobi and Anakin struggled at times with her speed, as she truly was one of the quickest. In terms of strength, she was by no means a juggernaut, but she could contend in lightsaber bouts with Dooku, Kenobi, and Anakin, even when he's enraged. So she does have some measure of strength and has trained in ways to deflect straight up brute attacks. She has a decent stamina as well, given she's taken part in several battles throughout the galaxy and done just fine. And she's durable enough to take lightsaber blows, blaster bolts, deep falls, and broken bones. Now, overall physically, Asajj was what I would call a physical specialist. Her calling card is clear and obvious, with her agility and speed, as she was one of the fastest of her time. She's nothing crazy in the other categories, but she's more than adequate enough to make her incredibly dangerous physically with the agility. Now next, let's move on to her lightsaber skills and martial arts prowess. Asajj Ventress was a prodigy with the blade and took up tutelage under one of the greatest lightsaber tutors you could have in the galaxy, that being the legendary Count Dooku. Among the many forms she learned, Asajj was a specialist in both Jarkai dual blade fencing using two blades, as well as her abilities in Makashi, or a dueling centric style, including with one blade. She also showed prowess with both Juyo, or an aggressive blinding style, seeking to overwhelm you with an offensive onslaught, as well as Form 6, which kind of incorporates a lot of force attacks, which she did often in her duels. She was able to absolutely melt regular Jedi Knights with no problem in dueling. She could take on both Anakin and Kenobi at the same time, doing very well, even holding them off when she was weakened. On top of this, she could take down a Kit Fisto. Even though she did prep for him, she was a bad matchup for him in a duel and defeated him. And this was a Kit that was above a Clone Wars Kenobi at that point, who had not mastered Tarisu. On top of this, she was able to contend with Mace Windu briefly multiple times, showing how insane she was as a duelist, and also went toe-to-toe with Dooku and defeated the likes of characters like Kukruk and other Jedi Knights and Masters who simply weren't that elite of duelists in that time. Overall, Asajj Ventress is one of the most slept-on duelists, especially when we talk about her feats in Legends. She trained under one of the best, fought some of the best, had a good resume against some of the best, and has to be noted for her elite speed in dueling and the several forms she was a master of and dangerous with, including Form 2, Juyo, and the other forms like Form 5. Now, moving on, let's talk about her force power and abilities. Now, Asajj, though known for her dueling prowess, was no slouch in the force department. She learned under Dooku as well, already had natural affinity with the force, and was a master of the corrupted dark side ways. She learned from several holocrons and tutored under Dooku for several years. This allowed her to learn both regular abilities and the arcane. She also learned from some of the Night Sisters and trained under them, and knew Sith sorcery. This included the likes of raising and reanimating the dead. She was an expert in assassin-like techniques with the Force, including Force concealment, even concealing herself from Mace Windu. Force augmentation was another one of her specialties. She had precog. She had the ability of both Force telekinesis and other basic Sith moves with the Force offensively. She was able to go toe-to-toe with even Anakin in Force blasts and struggles, showing just how dangerous she was. And her ability and affinity with the dark side, and particularly Sith magic and sorcery, was quite noted. In particular, one of the tutors and teachers that Sidious learned from stated magic she used was complex, even though Asajj considered it lesser of the stuff she knew. Overall, Asajj Ventress is a slept-on combatant. I think this is to mostly people having a skewed view of her in canon. If you take her Legends material, she's way cooler, and she brings a lot to the table, including being one of the most dangerous duelists of her time, and one of the more unique Force users of the Clone Wars era. Now, if Asajj Ventress and Darth Zannah, sorry, I can't talk today, if they were to clash, who do I think would win? First, smash the like button. Again, 200 plus likes for more Star Wars battles. But here, we have an interesting tale of two sides of a coin, right? And let's get into it first by talking about categories. Physically, I'd give the edge to Asajj. While Zannah is slept on physically, I feel like Asajj's calling card with her agility and quickness was just superior to Zannah. I feel like she's at Zannah's level or just a bit above in most categories and is faster. I'd give the physical edge to Asajj Ventress. Dueling. I do think Zannah is a better duelist than given credit for oftentimes, but Asajj really cooked as a duelist, especially in Legends, easily taking on groups of entire Jedi, no problem, taking down Jedi Knights and Jedi Masters who weren't the elite of the elite, and going toe-to-toe with the elites of her time. Zannah could go toe-to-toe, but never really ever had chances to win against the elites. She just, in my opinion, wasn't the same level as Asajj, but I do want to note she could hold Asajj off in a duel. Now let's move on to Force powers and abilities. Here, even though Asajj has a unique skill set with the Force and some pretty good versatility, I don't believe she's on the level of Zannah. The wild shit Zannah brings to the table is a lot crazier. I would give the edge in the Force and Force abilities to Zannah. Now, how would this battle go down with the categories out the way? I believe it would start off in a duel, with Asajj taking the early lead in the dance, being a more naturally aggressive and fluid duelist. I would see Zannah having to be on her back foot to start this, constantly pressing back, figuring out this style of this new opponent she has. However, Zannah is very experienced. She's dealt with Jedi Masters literally who are 3 times speed amp by battle meditation. She'll be more than fast enough to handle this initial onslaught, although this is probably the most dangerous point of the battle for someone like a Zannah. I believe her defenses would hold, and she would start spamming spells of Sith madness, spells of absolute destruction to the mind, which even if you could argue Asajj has defenses against, which I'm doubtful, I'm inclined to say she doesn't. Even if she did, it's not enough. I think she would, at bare minimum, be forced to put her defenses into stopping this madness spells. While trying to stop this, I could see the dark side tendrils coming into play, and I see Zannah taking this in the mid to the long run, ultimately due to her insane force arsenal and how she would incorporate it into combat. I do feel she's as smart, if not smarter than Asajj, would withstand the onslaught and take her down with the Force. But anyways, guys, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Who do you think would win between the two? What do you like about both characters? And which battles do you want to see next? Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. It's been your boy Jobbers and Goons, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.